Welcome back for another PianoTales podcast. My name is Amelia Fong, and I'm going to be your host today. Today, our guest is Everett Kim. He's a film composer and recently has scored for the film A Great Divide. I'm really excited to learn more about his composing, his background, and how he's able to communicate the story that you see on screen through his music. So let's give it up for Everett.
Hi, what's up?
It's so good to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. I'm actually at USC. I'm meeting with a director for just a short film she's doing. So,
Okay.
I'm just back at USC. So, hanging out.
That's so cool. Oh my gosh, I miss USC. I want to go back. Well, thanks for taking time. Evan, so you know Evan from camp.
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
I just saw him. Yeah.
He told me about that. He told me that you came to talk with the campers about what you're doing and everything. How was that?
Mm-hmm. It was great. I mean, I went to that camp for many years when I was a kid, and I went with Evan when I was a kid, and so going back and being able to talk about music and stuff is very nostalgic and kind of full circle for me. So it was cool.
Curious to know your story, your composing process. What got you to composing?
Well, my name is Everett Kim. I am from Southern California, born and raised, and I'm a composer. And I grew up playing music. I started playing piano when I was a kid, and so that's kind of just what led me into the career that I'm doing. And now I write music for movies, TV shows, just visual media in general.
So Evan was telling me that. You also mentioned too that you did have a background in piano. So what was the pipeline to learning piano, but then pivoting towards composition? What was that like?
Yeah, so I mean, as every Asian that I know, we all start on piano. So I started playing piano. My parents made me do it when I was 6, and I hated it actually. I did not want to do it. I fought with my mom. I resisted it. I just really hated doing it. I did it for 10 years. And then after that, when I was in middle school, end of elementary school, I started playing other instruments like trumpet, French horn. And that was kind of started introducing me to different kinds of music, different kinds of classical music. And after playing these other instruments, then all the stuff that I learned on piano was a huge foundation for everything. I think piano is the blueprint for, all music. I think you can play piano, you can play pretty much anything. And gave me this skill set, even though I resisted it and I tried not to. I was didn't want to do it. But after learning and having all those lessons, it gave me this skill set that allowed me to be able to learn very quickly and compose very quickly as well. Because, I think piano is the foundation if you want to compose.
So when you first started dabbling in composing, do you remember how old you were and how that happened? Did you start with the piano for composing, or was it writing actual scores?
It's really interesting actually, because I didn't write an original piece of music until I was about 20 years old. I'm way late in the game. Yeah, I didn't start writing music until way later. And so I teach a bunch of composing students right now, and they're just starting way earlier than me. It's dang, I wish I started that early. But for me, the journey was, I was a performer. I would play, I would practice, and I would learn how to read very well and play very well. But I only started writing after I had gone to college, or in the middle of college is when I started actually trying to write and compose music. Because for me, I was I don't know if I can, you know what I mean? I wasn't aware. I always knew I knew what, how to read and listen to music, but I didn't know if I could make music. And I kind of was a little scared to try. But in the middle of my time at Berklee College of Music is where I went to undergrad. I started writing, and that's kind of when I started doing it.
Cool, that's awesome, because a lot of people, I feel get discouraged because they're oh, it's too late in the game,
yeah.
But if you have the right resources and you're motivated, you're open to learning, you can do it. And I didn't for teaching students composing, so how do you go about that? How do you teach someone or give them the skills to compose?
I mean, composing is a really hard one because it's a very organic process. It's kind of just your brain that's out and translated into the text of music, and so it's hard to teach that a little bit, but there are things that you can learn in harmony. There are things that you can learn in theory, music theory, that can help you kind of translate thoughts into that musical, that tangible musical thing. But I personally, when I work with students, it's a lot about what you feel and what makes you feel a certain way. And that's like what music is, especially in film. Like for film composers, like our whole job is to make you feel something that we're trying to make you feel, trying to make you feel something that, that fits with the picture that you're watching. So, for me, it's a lot of, it's a very personal process. Like what I may like may not be what, my student likes, but I always try to encourage you to mess around and make a lot of mistakes to find what makes sense for you, what works for you, because that's what matters, I think.
That's a great point that you touched on, honestly, where it's like it's a very personal process and it's supposed to feel something at the end of the day. And I think it's so interesting. Like you did piano growing up, I also did piano too. And it's like when you're learning, you're like, okay, I'm going to learn the notes so I can play it well and play it for whatever. But like at the end of the day, the person who composed it for the same reason, like that you were talking about, is to make you feel something. So I think it's cool. Like music is such a great outlet to just like understand like the root of music. It's to make you feel something, especially for film, like because you have to score it to bring, the pictures alive and whatnot. What would you say then is like when you're trying to compose or score something, because it's such an organic process, everyone is different, but like for you personally, trying to get to a creative headspace, I guess, do you have any like, or not advice, but what do you like to do in that kind of situation?
So, I mean, we're pianists, right? So like for me, it always starts with piano. I'll always put up, let's say I'm doing a film, right? And I have a scene, I'll put up the scene on my computer and then I'll just pull up a piano sound. And all I'll do is I'll just sit and I'll watch it a bunch of times. And I think the main thing first is to understand, as film composers, like your job is very almost secondary to the role of the film. Like our job is to be of service to something else. It's not our, moment to make a big musical statement that are, our magnum opus. I think for me, it's more about like, what am I trying to accomplish that is going to be of service to the film? So I'll watch the film a bunch and I'll try to understand what's going on in the scene and what I need to do musically. And then once I have that understood, then I will just mess around with the piano. I'll just play it over and over again and just play different things, play different ideas, record different ideas. And then once I've found something that I like, then it's the process of orchestrating, figuring out which instruments, which sounds create the right palette that I want to create. And so, but yeah, the foundation is always the piano for me. It's always just using the piano as a way to create the harmony and melody first, and then the tones and all the stuff comes out after with all the different instruments.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's the same for me. I always have to start with piano to like just, it's the foundation for everything to just emotionally connect. And it's very like meditative almost. It's like you got to get in the zone. You like score it to other instruments. Well, I just have like a few, I guess like some fun questions for you just to kind of my fun questions are, and I don't know if they're difficult or if you know the answer, but like your favorite composer, and then have a favorite like film score.
I guess favorite composer right now, I'm at USC, and my favorite composer right now is Ludwig Göransson. He went to the program that I did at USC, and he is I just really love what he does with rhythm, what he does with sounds and synths, and really cool stuff. If you haven't listened to the score from Tenet, I suggest you listen to that one. That one's a really cool one. Or Black Panther too. But he did a lot of cool stuff. So he's kind of my favorite right now. Or Oppenheimer, which just came out, which is a great score. But favorite score of all time, I gotta go with like my childhood. Like this is kind of the reason I started. Of course, everyone, John Williams, like that's like the GOAT of all time. But Harry Potter was always one of those scores that was like so potent in my brain of like just transporting me to a different place. Like the way that he captures the whimsical, the magical, that score is like forever going to be in my number one spot, probably, just for being, so, magical to me. And like in terms of film, like the goal, I think, when I make music and film is to try to be able to completely just transport you into whatever the story is. And I think that the Harry Potter score does it, the best. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good response. Yeah. Same for me. But yeah, no, great point that you brought up too. It's all about like transporting you to a different place. Like that's the point at the end of the day of like writing these scores and I guess just music in general. But yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much. I appreciate you having me. Tell Evan I say hi. Bye.
Bye. All right, so that was our episode for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Until next time, keep on creating.